Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another spectacular episode of No, She's Not My Daughter. I'm Jayson, the taller and heavier version of the relationship. And as always, the beautiful and talented Brandy, baby girl Ryan. Say hello to the good folks, baby girl.
Hello, good folks.
You know, it's been a few minutes since we've been behind the mic.
We slacked off a little bit.
We did slack off a little bit. Life happened. We had to go to work and had to deal with some stuff, but we're back. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. You were quick to remind us that we needed to produce a new episode, and we owed you some information, and so here we are. So before we get started, baby girl, why don't you tell them where they can find us?
Yes, you guys can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Jayson and Brandy. Jayson with a Y, Brandy with an I. Then we also have the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, No, She's Not My Daughter. And then you guys can also email us any questions or just stories about you and your relationship, notmydaughterpod@gmail.com.
Excellent. And make sure you hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, and the share button. Hit all the fucking buttons. Just do that. Any fucking button you see on there, just start touching shit. And so now let's roll straight into your favorite part of the show, and that is Famous Age Gap Couples with Brandy Ryan.
All right, so since it is Pride Month, I thought we would choose a nice LGBTQ plus couple, which is Holland Taylor and Sarah Paulson.
Very nice. I like both of them.
Yeah, both really good actresses.
Yeah.
They are 32 years apart.
That's amazing.
That's a pretty hefty age gap.
It is.
I believe, I should have wrote it down, but I think Sarah Paulson's like 47 and Holland Taylor like 79, I believe.
47 plus 32, 79.
Okay, then yeah, she's 79. The reason you do math for a living.
I'm sorry, I used to do it on an abacus. I'll tell you what that is later on.
I didn't get it.
So how tall are they, baby girl?
Sarah Paulson's 5'6", and Holland Taylor is 5'4".
She's a tiny little woman. At 5'4". I mean, it's not really tiny, but she's a lot shorter than I thought.
2 inches taller than me.
Well, because it's weird because she plays the mom on 2.5 Men. And if you see her standing next to Charlie Sheen, she looks tall, but it's because Charlie Sheen.
I think they always have her in heels. And
Charlie Sheen's not very tall. So it's deceiving.
True.
Do you remember the little trivia tidbit that I gave you?
There's so many trivia things you give me. She was some manager on Boob Buddies.
Yeah. Tom Hanks' first television series, his first role that made him famous was on a sitcom back in 1980 called Bosom Buddies.
I had boob. It has to do with boobs.
It was him and Peter Scolari, and Holland Taylor was his boss. They worked at an advertising agency, and Holland Taylor was his boss. And it's so amazing to me, and I know you laugh when I tell you stupid shit like that, but if you ever go watch that show, she looks exactly the same. Same haircut, same everything. It's like she never ages. I can't believe she's 80 years old. But that's awesome. What a great couple. I'm glad that you brought them on. And happy Pride Week, everybody. Happy Pride Month. Sorry. Did I say touch all the fucking buttons? I meant touch all the fucking buttons. Okay, so the last 2 episodes were about the difficulties and drama surrounding how you broke the news to your friends and family and the reactions and all that type of stuff. And we needed to tell the second half of that. And the second half of that is about my favorite topic, which is myself. So if I get too long-winded, you promise to punch me in the nuts?
Yes.
Okay. So to lay a little bit of foundation, when the place where we're going to start at is I was in a long-term relationship. It had been about 4 years, which is long-term for me. So it had been about 4 years. We were living together. Things were obviously not going very well, which is why I was kind of in exit mode. And so this woman was on her way out, and Brandy and I were starting to kind of come out of the closet a little bit, no pun intended for Pride Month, but that's kind of what was happening. Like we were just starting to kind of venture into a public life for one another. So I had gone to my friend's daughter's wedding and kind of wanted to take a test run at what it was going to be like to tell people. Now, to lay a little bit more foundation, we had several conversations around what will people think, how will we deal with it, because we had joined an age gap age gap relationship site, and so we were kind of reading this, and it started
not like a dating site, like a support group, like Facebook page,
right? And so it kind of started to create a little bit of anxiety for us because we were like, shit, I don't I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, we knew that your parents and stuff would be a little bit freaked out, and so,
But not like
not like it happened. But we didn't really know, and so I had said, honestly, I think the first impression from my friends and family will first be, oh wow, and then it'll be, I kind of get it, because that's just kind of who I am. I'm 54 years old, but my maturity level is typically not around 54. I mean, I'm still very young at heart and silly.
Yeah,
And
you have still your inner child
Yeah.
and stuff. You very much, you have you're not.
right. No, I'm not a
Because,
deadbeat. I'm not a
Yeah, you have
54-year-old
you're
kid
very
working at Subway.
established, you're successful,
Yeah.
you know how to be a boss and everything,
Yeah.
but you're still, you like to have fun.
But mentally,
Yeah.
I'm sense of humor and
Yeah.
that type of stuff. I'm still very young at heart. I'm not ready to be a grandparent, that type of stuff. So people kind of look at that and they go, you know what, it makes sense. So I'm at my friend John's wedding, or his daughter's wedding, and so I thought, well, I'll just drop some nuggets out there and kind of see what happens. And so I just kind of mentioned that, hey, I'm thinking about dating a high school girl.
Oh my God.
And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of get that.
Not in high school. I was
no,
well out
no,
of
of course
college
not.
at this age. I was 26 years old. He's being dramatic.
So yeah, she was 26. So I kind of dropped it on him, and it kind of fell flat, kind of like I expected. And so I told her about it, and she, of course, was obviously flattered that I had brought it up to. I've known this guy my whole life. I mean, literally since we were 5 years old. And so she's like, well, you really brought that up? I'm like, I did. But at the time, I still wasn't separated from
Which was
my
a huge
live-in.
moment for me, because that was like the first
Yeah.
time you actually told somebody in your circle about me. And I was
Well,
like,
because everybody that you had known that you had let in on this was saying things like, well, has he told anybody yet? Has he said? And that was creating some anxiety for you, because you were like, oh, fuck, am I getting played? What's going on? So that was really the first moment where you were like, shit, he's actually like, this is real.
Yeah.
And so I told it to John, and it kind of fell flat. And the reality is, it's different for men, I think, than it is for women, because most of the time when you bring it up, other men, it's all high fives and hell yeahs, and that's kind of it. Good for you. And then they tell their wives, and their wives think I'm a piece of shit. And I mean, everybody knows that routine. You expect that, but it's a little bit different than men. So I dropped those hints on John, and it just kind of, okay, that makes sense. And then he came to visit and met you and spent the weekend with us, and we were going on a fishing trip, and my son was going to go on the fishing trip, and my son's probably the most laid-back person you ever met in your life. I mean,
we knew he was going to be easy.
Yeah, and so I had brought it up already in conversation that I was not going to be with the woman that I was living with, and I needed to tell them, because her son and my son were very good friends. Like, they were in each other's weddings. And so I needed to bring that up. And my son, in typical Jacob fashion, was like, all right. He goes, is she going to be there when I come over for the fishing trip? And I said, yeah, are you okay with that? He goes, well, I'm going to need to meet my next stepmom. So I guess I need to come over and talk to her. And so he did. He came over and said, and was very engaging and, not judgmental. And my family's really kind of like that. And they were all kind of like that. My daughter was really...
And we knew that was maybe going to be the big... And that was the one I was most nervous about, too.
Yeah. Well, Morgan and I we're very, very close, and always have been. And so I knew it was going to be problematic for her. And you did, too, because they're only 6 months apart.
Yeah.
In age.
I think it would be weird for anybody in my situation. So I knew it was going to be hard, and I wasn't going to try to push it on her. Like, I was totally expecting it to be, a little weird for her. And I just was... That was like the most nervous part, because I knew how important she was to you. And I was like, that was the biggest hurdle we were going to have.
Well, and so let's talk about that a little bit. So I told Morgan, I think I took her out for happy hour or something. Like, that's kind of our thing. Like, we're close enough that we live in the same neighborhood. Yeah. Like, we could walk to each other's houses in less than 5 minutes. So Morgan and I would hook up for happy hour, probably at least a couple times a week. She worked from home, and so did I. And so I took her out, and I said, listen, I'm breaking up with the former. I'm trying not to use her name. And the funny thing was, she said, Dad, I'm surprised it lasted this long. And I said, wow, why do you say that? She goes, you guys are nothing alike. She is very and this is what Morgan said, but it's true. She's very boring and routine, and she's on a fast track to be a grandmother, and I'm avoiding it. I'm taking turns to get away from it. And that's where she wanted to go. She was looking to settle down and get married with somebody stable and get up and go for her walk in the morning and have her coffee and be in bed by 8 o'clock. And, this was her
You're
routine.
the life of the party, and she's the person that doesn't want to go to the party.
Yes. I'm the life of the party, and she's the wallflower. She's standing in
Which
the corner.
that works in some situations, but
It does.
that's just not what it was.
It does. It works in a situation where that person wants to be more involved. They just don't know how. But she didn't want to be more involved.
Yeah.
She was figuring out ways to not go places, and that's really what ended up killing the relationship.
Because you're compromising a lot of your personality and what you like to do.
Yeah, I'm a goer and a doer, and she did not want to go and do. Anyway, so and it didn't help matters that the most beautiful woman in the entire world, and turned out to be the love of my life, staggered into the same restaurant I was in. And just threw a complete fucking monkey wrench in my entire existence. So that's what I told Morgan. We were breaking up, and she said, "I'm really surprised that it took this long." And so then I said, "Well, that was only half of what I needed to tell you, and here's the other half." And I said, "I'm dating somebody younger," and she said, "Oh, okay." And then I said, "Much younger," and she went, "Okay, how much younger?" And I said, "Well, she's 26. And she went, "Oh." And it became a little awkward. And so we kind of talked through it, and she said, I don't know how I feel about that. And I said, I know. I said, "I know it's strange." I said, "But she's a wonderful person. I think you'll really like her. You guys have a lot in common." And so I was trying to, and you do. And so I was trying to kind of massage through that. And it took her a little while to come around. Like I would invite her to go places with us. Like, "Hey, we're going for happy hour. Do you want to come and meet us?" And she said, "No."
Yeah.
She said, I'm not comfortable doing that. Now you have to keep in mind that at this time, Brandy's living with me. Because as soon as I broke up out of my relationship and she told her parents evicted her.
Yeah. So the past girlfriend moved out, and I told my parents a little bit around that time, and I got kicked out 2 weeks later. So she just had gotten out, and I was living there 2 weeks later, not by choice, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. So we had to hide the fact that I was living there because it just looked weird, and that's not how we planned the situation to go at all.
It wasn't at all. And it was so close together, and this is important. I don't know if you remember this, but she was still coming and getting stuff out of the house. So you were staying there at night with me. So when she would come to get stuff out of the house, I would have to lock the bedroom door.
Or you would put it out on the porch.
Yeah, or I would put it outside so that she didn't know, because I didn't want to hurt her feelings.
Yeah, and I didn't. None of it went the way it planned at all. And
so all this time, Brandy's living with me. My daughter lives a 5-minute walk away. We see each other almost every day in the neighborhood, and she doesn't want to meet her. So it's a hide and seek game for the next 6 months or so.
Which is like hurtful, but I got it at the same time too. I knew it was going to be difficult, and I wasn't trying to rush it or force it, but it's still obviously hurtful, and
of course
somebody doesn't want to give you a chance to know you, and I'm like, just at least meet me first, and then, but I could get it.
Well, it's not like she called you a pedophile and evicted me and said you were disgusting, and which is what her parents said about me. But so I mean, we got it. It was a little strange, but my daughter's always kind of been that way. She's not big on change, so a lot of times it takes her time to kind of warm up to the idea, and it did. And she took her own sweet time. She was a little standoffish, and then finally I said to her, "Listen, holidays are coming around. My family's coming to visit. Everybody's going to want to get together. So the meeting is going to happen. I don't think you want it to be the first time in front of your aunts and uncles and grandparents and all that type of stuff." And she said, "You know what, you're right." And so we went and met them for dinner, her and her now fiance, and had a very nice time. Like it wasn't as awkward. I mean, it started out a little awkward.
Yeah, there was some awkward silences and some small talk stuff, but overall, I think, and then eventually towards the end, we started having our own conversations. Like me and her had little sidebars, and you were talking, and it was like, it went pretty good, I think, for a first one.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, like we didn't all break down in tears and go, why did we wait so long to do this?
Yeah.
But it was comfortable enough where I think all of us walked away from it going, you know what? I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And since then, we've met for drinks. We've crossed paths several times.
Yeah. And your guys' relationship is still
yeah,
solid.
Yeah,
Nothing
we're
has
still
changed with you.
Yeah, we're still tits. It's wonderful. Sorry, my daughter. So yeah, I mean, our relationship has gone right back to the way it was. Like I think I was very nervous that she was going to lose some respect for me, or think, oh my God, what are you doing, Dad? But after, and I think your aunt said it best the first time, after you're around us for an hour, the ages just kind of evaporate into the background, and it's not in the forefront anymore.
Yeah.
It's
like you're still aware of it, but it's not
right. It's not right in your face all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I forget you guys are so far apart because we're just us, and we don't change who that is. So that was dealing with my daughter, and then my sister came to visit, and with her husband and her two twins, and so I had to tell them
one twin, but
well, there's two of them, but only one
set of twins. I don't.
So anyway, my sister came with her twin. And so I had to tell them because they were much younger, like they're teenagers. And so I was nervous about springing it on them because they were coming to visit and I didn't want to create a moment. But my sister and her husband are 14 years apart. So they're in an age gap relationship, although they don't see it that way. But her husband is my age. Yeah. And she is in her early 40s. And so they are in an age gap relationship. And they've been married for 25 years. So, they were roughly the same age. Just not as big age gap as us, obviously. And she was like, all right. And they came and we all had a great time and they hung out with us and it was easy, smooth sailing there. And then it was Christmas time. And the majority of my family still lives in Texas. I have another sister that lives in Canada. And then I, of course, live in Florida. And so every year for Christmas, if we're not all able to get together, which unfortunately because of COVID we aren't, so we did a Zoom call. And so it was Christmas Eve, and we all jumped on a Zoom call, and Brandy was in the other room, let me have my family time.
With your
and,
family.
They all knew I had told them. And so my family is the biggest bunch of fucking knuckleheads you've ever seen. So we have a Facebook page called My Dysfunctional Family with quotations around the FUN because we say we put the fun in dysfunctional.
I love it.
It's so much fun. But all of my sisters, two of them are in age gap relationships. One of them's in Canada. My dad and my mother are divorced, but they're remarried to the people they should have been married to all along. They've been married to them for 30 years. They actually travel together, for events, my son's wedding and things like that. They all come and stay together.
And
so
your dad and his wife are age gap also.
My dad and his wife are in an age gap relationship.
Not much. I think it's like 12 years.
Yeah, I think it's 10 or 12 years. So we're on this Zoom call, and I'm sitting there, and my sister, she goes, "Where's your girlfriend?" And I said, "Well, she's in the other room." And she goes, "Well, go get her." And I said, "Okay." And so we brought her in, and she pulled up a chair next to me and sat there on the call, and they all pop quizzed her. And
yeah, they were very inclusive and asking me questions about me and my family and stuff, which was really nice. They were engaging with me.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was my dad said, we're all kind of a bunch of lunatics. You think you're going to fit in with us? And she goes, "Oh, yeah, I think it's an easy slide." And she did, and she slipped right in. So my whole family just kind of brought her into the fold, and that's kind of how it's been, to the point when my son got married in February. My whole family was here. So this is a dysfunctional family moment. So let me kind of break this down for you. So several years ago, before Brandy and I met, my parents, my dad and his wife, my mother and her husband, my sisters, all of the sisters, their husbands, and their children all came to my house because they were visiting to go to my second ex-wife's wedding, at which my father was going to give her away as the father of the bride, and my stepmother was the maid of honor. And they all stayed at my house while they did this. It's the most fucked up thing you've ever seen, but it's also the coolest thing you've ever seen because they're like, you know what? fuck it. Why are we going to hate? Life's too short. Everybody's good people. Just figure it out. And so they did. And I cannot tell you how blessed I am to have parents like that they were able, because it was not a happy divorce. And they put all their differences aside and said, you know what, we got to deal with each other for the rest of our lives. Let's just get over ourselves and do it. And so they did. And so I only hope that we continue that
That's
tradition.
the way things should go.
That's the way things should go. And I think everybody watching this is probably thinking, fuck, I wish my family was like that, because it's been really hard. But I'll tell you, when everybody came for my son's wedding, all my parents stayed here. My dad was playing guitar and singing with you. I mean, it was like her and I had been together the whole time.
Yeah.
And she was just part of the family the entire time. So sorry to disappoint you. Nobody died or got shot. It was, it was actually a very pleasant situation. Did I miss anything? How was it from your perspective?
It was it was refreshing, but also very different, because you have a huge family and they all come to every event, all the stuff. My family's not really like that. Thanksgiving, Christmas and stuff, it's usually just me and my parents, and sometimes my brother. My brother lives in Colorado. He doesn't have a whole lot of money, so he doesn't travel that much. But so usually it's just us. So having to deal with your family, and like on the Zoom call, there's like 20, 30 people and all of them staying at our house. I was overwhelmed, but it was like, I'm like, this is nice. This is refreshing to be around family who actually likes to be around each other and is so close like this.
Yep.
So,
well, we'll be on speakerphone, and my dad, or in the car or something, and my dad will say, okay, I love you guys. Talk to you later. Like, they just act like she's been here all along. And it feels like you've been here all along.
Me and your dad's wife, we actually had a lot of good moments together. We would go out by ourselves and go shopping and do stuff, and we had some very talks, because we're both in age gaps and know at some point we're going to lose our partner before us. So we had actually some really good moments of tears and crying and conversations about that, which was really cool.
Such good stuff. It's such a fun story to tell. And so for advice, right? So I think this is where the big moment comes in. Just like we did when we talked about yours, my advice to people that are going through this, from my perspective, is the reason my family is like that is because we have open lines of communication. We don't hide shit from each other. And I think that that's important. You have to be open and honest. And if you feel like you're hiding it, it's maybe because you feel like you're making the wrong decision. And I never felt like I was making the wrong decision. I knew it was going to bother people, but I wasn't going to hide from it, and I wasn't going to try to sugarcoat it and ease into it. I mean, it was just like, okay, we're doing this, and here we go. And because of that, I think from my perspective and my family, they respect that, because I didn't shy away from it. I said, this is Brandy, her and I are together, and I hope you like it. But if you don't, I'm not asking your permission. I'm just letting you know. Morgan was a little bit of a slower warm-up, but in dealing with her, I didn't turn it off. I didn't throw it in her face all the time. But if she called and said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I would say, well, Brandy and I are doing X. Like, I had to make you part of the conversation and not
get them used to hearing my name and that we're a thing.
Yes. And eventually it just kind of became okay. Yeah. And now it's better. You guys were text messaging back and forth today. And so the relationships are very healthy. And I'm very happy about that.
And advice from my side, I guess, people who are in the process of have or going to meet their partner's kids who are around the same age, because I know it's very, you don't know, it's uncharted territory. You don't know what to do. You got to be patient. It may take a while. They're most likely going to be kind of standoffish and slow to accepting you, but be in their face, but not overly. Like, don't be pushy about it. Don't be like, I'm just going to, come in there confident. Like, no, you have to give them their time and their space, and eventually they'll come around. Right. The longer that you guys last. And I think the fact that if they see that you're happy, they'll be more accepting. Because I feel like that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to see their parents happy, no matter what, Yep. So I think eventually it'll get to that point.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think in the end, everybody wants you to be happy. And if you're showing that you're happy in front of those people, if they love you, they can't help but just begin to accept it, because it's what makes you happy. It's great advice. Well, I thank you for letting me go down that little emotional trip. It's nice to brag on my family a little bit, and I'm very happy that they welcomed you the way that they have.
Me too.
And so as we wrap this thing up, like we always say, Love because it feels right.
Not because it looks right. We gotta learn who says what first.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Say goodnight, baby girl.
Good night, baby girl.